Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. It's a Friday, TGIF, but, these are serious times. We still thank God it's Friday, but all sorts of things are going on. Global news, we hear that the U.S. is, actually recording record levels of COVID-19 deaths, and that's coming directly out of the White House. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we'll also be looking at it here. CNN has reacted to the federal government reaction to their report, that they put out. Alhaji Lai Mohammed was speaking yesterday, and CNN has reacted to that. We'll be looking at that in the second half of our program. But the first half of our program, our guest is our friend, Mr. Joseph Atta, Customs PRO. It's very good to see you, Mr. Atta. Thank you very much for coming on.
Good morning.
Indeed.
It's my pleasure to be with you again.
Our pleasure. We thought, first of all, we're coming out of all sorts of, I spoke about the NSAS issue, that, as I said, CNN has reacted. But as it concerns your operations, just about so many people were impacted by the disorder at that time. How badly was the customs affected? Because we've heard how badly the police were affected, private businesses were affected, even public buildings. How badly was the customs affected?
Well, before I talk about how we are affected, I think it's nice that I commiserate with TVC. I can see that we are in a different studio. I met you last time in a very beautiful studio.
We're trying to keep on keeping on.
In customs, our hearts and prayers also go to our brothers, the Nigerian police force, who have had to face the worst form of treatment. In customs too, sadly, we had our own fair share of that wanton destruction attacks and all that. The Adama command, our Adama command of the Nigerian Customs Service was completely vandalized. So many things looted. Seizures that were either detained or things that were either detained or seized, case files, so many other things.
But no fatalities.
Were destroyed, and even a rifle was taken, and you can see the implication of that.
But no fatalities.
Luckily, there we did not record any fatality on the part of customs.
Okay.
In Idiroko, we did record one, and then including destruction of patrol bases and vehicles and all that. In Benin, warehouse was vandalized, items looted, and rifles and 280 rounds of live ammunitions were stolen or looted away. I mean,
and so with
five
with a service
rifles.
Like customs, I imagine you can't waste any time at all in trying to get back on top. Has that work begun in earnest?
Of course. I mean, we have no choice other than to remain on course and all that. Of course. And we pray that Nigeria as a nation never had to go through that period again.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. Now, the other thing, and our commiserations also to the Customs Service.
Thank you very much.
Dostana, thank you very much for the kind words you said about TVC and implying other, outfits that are trying to get back on their feet again. Okay. Now, the other thing is customs apparently is still very much busy, and that you're smiling there suggests to me that you have an idea of what I'm going to bring up since we were speaking before coming on air, and that is what I call the multiplicity of customs checks. The first contact with customs is usually at a border, at a port. You come in by air, you go through customs. You come in by sea, it doesn't matter. You come in by road, you go through customs. So, having now arrived and haven't gone through customs, why are there so many, if you agree that there are so many, customs checks? In other words, multiple customs checks internally.
Well, that's what we hear from people who are inclined to not comply with extant laws, because I said inclined to non-compliance, because if you get to those who are compliant, those who do the right thing, those who do proper documentation, correct declaration, and appropriate payment of duty, you don't get to hear this. There's nothing multiple about it. It gets multiplied and a bit cumbersome when infractions are discovered.
Okay.
At any time an infraction is discovered, it means intervention will be necessitated. Customs will intervene, and customs intervention either by way of reclassifying the goods or by way of raising DN, that's demand notice, to recoup what you have cleverly dodged. It then means that you're going all the way back. There are situations where certain infractions are discovered, certain doubts are created by the documentation that may necessitate repositioning of your container, and that means, as it is usually said, drawing back the hands of the clock. And that people will now say, oh, they are delaying, oh, they are delaying.
But isn't there a matter, I beg your pardon for interrupting you, isn't there a matter of efficiency here? If customs, as efficient as they are internally, as you are just indicating, why should there be that need? If they're efficient at the first port of contact, that just makes everybody's life simpler, and if there's any delay because of thoroughness, for example, it's all in one place, as opposed to labor costs, hour costs and all of that.
Okay, I think I want to start by using TVC as an example.
Okay.
You have reporters in the field. They send in reports. You have editors who have to go through. You have proofreaders. You have the final gatekeepers who will really see it before it gets out. That is checks. Any organization that lacks the ability to check itself is doomed to failure.
Yeah.
So, because in the first place, you know that these activities are carried out by human beings. And there are every tendency that there will be either genuine mistakes, or let's face it, there are even people who will be willing to compromise. No organization is a collection of angels. And therefore, the Nigerian Customs Service cannot lay claim to saying that every custom officer is a saint. No.
Okay.
Because it is believed that there may be one or two or three that will be ready to be compromised, that will be ready to dance to the tune of the stakeholder or the clearing agent, the importer, who will want to cut corners. For what reason? Maybe to shortchange the government. Where maybe you're supposed to pay, let's say, 10 million, you declare in such a way that you pay 2 million or 3 million, so that the remaining 7 or 8 gets into a private pocket. And you are willing to, of course, you are
go on.
Of course, it can go on because we are human beings. What is important is to put structures in a way that makes it near impossible for it to go on.
Oh, exactly. That ends at the very point I made. Is it extra training? Because no matter how smart you are, the customs service, I would imagine, exist and are trained knowing that that is a human foible. That is a human attitude. People don't bring contraband things and show it to customs. They're ingenious from what we've seen in the way they go about it. Are you saying it's not really humanly possible for a thorough job to be done at the first contact, and by implication that the mere fact that you've come through customs, you seem to be implying that that's not necessarily the end of it. Even between the last check of customs and going to where you're going to where your cargo is going to be deposited, you could still be subject to many other, well, not many other, but multiple other checks.
Okay, our check simply implies that the fact that you may have succeeded in compromising the system, the fact that you may have succeeded in concealing prohibited items in a way that probably escaped the watch and catch of your first contact has not made it uhuru for you.
I see.
One, we have our covert operatives, that is, we call them the Customs Intelligence Unit, whose duty is to be there prying on what is happening, prying on you, prying on even the custom officers and other security and regulatory agencies that are working. If they come across or they become privy to any classified information, they profile it and give the information to the Federal Operation Unit.
I see. So the customs works with intelligence too.
Of course, so that if you succeed and escape the watch and catch of your first contact, you have the federal operation you need to contend with. Okay. Let's even assume that probably for one reason or the other, they are not able to see you. Or where you had thought you're going to follow, they had calculated that you're going to follow, you dodge and follow a different way, and you eventually escape them and arrive at your warehouse. Upon credible intelligence, we have another third layer of security called the strike force. Upon credible intelligence, these people will now go to that place, storm the place, evacuate it, and arrest you. The whole essence is to ensure that the right thing is done at every stage. And let's also
but how does that explain, if it does, rice, for instance, foreign rice being available in our markets? So much so that we've come to the situation now where it is said that foreign rice, imported rice, is less expensive than ours.
The issue of foreign rice in the market, with some time gone by since the closure of the land border, with its positive effect on the agricultural sector, of course, you know that our capacity to produce rice and other food items in Nigeria have been boosted over this more than 1 year period. Rice milling factories have expanded, new ones have come on board, and therefore sometimes it's becoming increasingly difficult to differentiate between Nigerian rice and the foreign rice because of our improved capacity.
You know, that's an interesting point you're making, that people might be mistaking local rice for foreign rice simply because of the high quality.
The high quality. I can assure you of that because I've gone around as the spokesperson of the Bodadri. I've gone around, I've visited so many rice factories across the country. It has improved. But having said that, I'm not going to sit down here and say smuggling of rice has been completely wiped out.
Okay. Because the borders are still closed.
The land borders are still partially closed. Okay. But smuggling, in one way or the other, can still happen. Why? Because the crime of smuggling is committed by human beings. Even as we speak in this studio, there may be some people right now somewhere monitoring the movement of our troops and giving information to smugglers that they are going this way. When you are coming, don't pass through this road, pass through this bush path, you bust in this village, and then you branch left, you hit the highway. And such people will go. The operatives have been sabotaged by fellow Nigeria. Smugglers are even buying small handsets and sharing it to some youth or some border community dwellers who are willing to collect this handset, ride machine, carrying nothing, ostensibly
so they're lookouts.
to monitor the movement of our people and give information to the...
So essentially such youth are being lookouts for the bad guys.
Yeah, and give them the information. Look, they are coming. We just saw their trucks. They moved through this place now. When you are coming, don't pass through. So when you see such few that would have been tipped up to come in, and you say, where were the customers when they passed?
Okay.
They probably collected the bribe and all that. So
clearly you know about this since you're telling me about it.
Of course, when we make arrests, investigation review.
Okay, there must be countermeasures on behalf of customs.
Of course.
Okay, so that's ongoing. Yeah. There's so many things that we could talk about. Let's talk about the other news-making one. I'm not sure that everybody understands it quite as well as they should. E-customs. Now, with email, e-passports, now e-customs. What exactly is e-customs? I understand there's some big money attached to it, 3.1 billion. Who's getting that? What's going on?
So we are increasingly becoming E. I'm sure you also do e-interview. Well, e-customs, as the name suggests, it's electronic customs. Customs all over the world are increasingly modernizing. The WCO, that's the World Customs Organization, encourages every customs administration to modernize because there is a focus towards efficiency, emphasis on trade facilitations, what customs must do to make to ease the process of businesses, what customs must do to impact positively on national security and all that. And it is only through modernization that these things can be done. The WCO that I talk about encourages every customs administration to seek collaboration, seek technology, including emerging ones, in the process of its modernization. And that's what exactly the Nigerian Customs Service is doing. E-Customs is an end-to-end automation of customs processes and procedures. It includes, it's a concept of total automation of customs activities, programs, operations, using emerging technology to ensure global best practices. The core components of e-customs includes installation of non-intrusive equipment, that is scanners at our entry points, e-port, the concept of e-port, logistic monitoring, cargo tracking, e-enforcement, etc., etc.
Okay.
The whole idea is to facilitate trade.
And speed it up.
Speed it up.
And be more efficient.
Be more efficient. Increase in revenue collection for government.
But that would assume,
and enhance national security.
And that would assume that, for instance, a key piece of equipment, it would no doubt be the scanners. And usually we hear from jurisdictions around the world that they're not always up and running. They're not always working. What's our experience in Nigeria here?
Well, that has been the bane of cargo clearance at our ports and borders. When you hear complaints about delays here and there, it's largely due to the epileptic nature of the very few that we have, because those that we had, some of them packed up, and the few that we have are very epileptic. And therefore, the coming of e-customs is like a rescuer, so to speak. You know, the idea that the consortium that has been given this project will install these scanners in virtually all our entry points, and it is therefore their duty, their responsibility to update it, including emerging latest technology as the years go by. By the way, it's a 20 years project period. Okay. They had funded to the tune of $3.1 billion, and they recoup it gradually within this period of 20 years. So it is therefore their responsibility to update and upgrade. Okay. Because technology keeps changing.
It is their, probably the concession, it is their responsibility to maintain.
Yes, to maintain and update as emerging technology comes. But there are key points that must be stressed here. It is not a concession. Okay. We've had people refer to it as a concession.
I thought it was.
No, it's not a concession. We had people refer to it as a concession. As a concession. It is not a concession. It is a custom project. And unlike previous arrangements where customs head was shared at its absence, we are part of this from the beginning to the end. And therefore, all we need to get the best out of this project have been factored in. It's not one foreign design. Somebody just plans something and impose it on customs. No. We are part of the process.
So that's the,
right from the beginning.
PPP aspect of it.
Yeah, the federal government and the consortium and all that.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say is that customs who will be the drivers of this project, all we need to make us efficient, to make us serve Nigerians better, have been factored into it. It is not a concession.
When is it coming fully on stream, or is it already so?
Well, it's been signed, and I'm sure
the law backing it up.
It's been signed. The federal government has given approval. I'm sure by now the consortium of firms are crossing the T's and dotting their I's and getting ready to start the project. And I can tell you that the ones that the low-hanging fruits that we want to pluck quickly will be the installation of scanners, because we do need these scanners to help us hasten the process of clearance. And I'm sure Nigerians, especially trans-border trade actors, do need this, especially those who are complaining about delays in clearance and all that.
Because until
customers come
this project has been signed into law, customs had to go pretty much the old school way of spot checking, right?
Yeah,
since you can't do every single
exactly 100% examination of most containers, because in our client, compliance is a challenge. Compliance is a challenge, and when you see things that are at variance with declaration, what you need to do is to subject it to 100% examination. The process of 100% examination leads to delay, and people keep complaining about delay and all that. So this will help us. It will hasten the process of cargo examination, and more importantly, it will really have positive impact on national security. And
speed as well, and efficiency.
Exactly.
Mr. Kolawole Lawal has called in from Ogun State. Good morning, sir. Your question or comment?
Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling.
Yeah. I want to appreciate you, Yori.
Very kind, sir.
I want to appreciate the custom PRO.
Mr. Atta?
Also. Okay,
yes.
Yeah. I'm the honorable representing Ebado South or your South Ikuka constituency.
Okay.
And the Idiroko border and that area is is part of my constituency. I want to disagree with the custom PRO on the issue of multiplicity of custom checkpoints.
Okay.
From Songota to Idiroko, we have 51 custom checkpoints. 51, if not more.
51.
You actually counted, Honorable.
I have.
Okay.
Because I have challenges around that area, especially when this border drill started. We have challenges. We have serious challenges, and I always go there to talk to them. I want to appreciate Custom Amajam. I think he's retired now. We used to talk on this issue. I have talked to them. I've engaged them on this issue.
Okay.
The custom checkpoints are so many that even when you want to go home, it becomes difficult. From Majority checkpoint to Fyodom, sometimes I spend 3 hours when I'm going home. 3 hours because of custom checkpoint. People having to be checked, which I agree with. Nobody will support smuggling. I will not. And I tell my people that if you do anything that is difficult to the economy, I will not support you. But where the customs men are not doing it in a way, I want to say to you here today that customs lack capacity in terms of having what they are doing around that area. Now, when the border issue started, 20 kilometers from Idiroko is Ehumbo. Ehumbo from Ajete is about 3-4 kilometers, and they deprived the police stations around that area because they started their checking from Ajete instead of Ehumbo. I'm telling them to tell the hierarchy they should please move to Ehumbo for discussion because that's where 20 kilometers started. From Idiroko. But they're depriving the people from Agilete to that Ehumbo the right to open the police stations. It's not even an issue, but if they observe according to their guidelines, should be 20 kilometers in Ehumbo. Let them do that. And
I see where this is going. Let me bring it to Mr. Atta. There was a sense in which you actually earlier had spoken when I'd said that the borders were still closed. You corrected me, actually, say partially closed. Yeah. But now factor that into, because the Honorable here, Mr. Lawal, has brought up the matter of maybe partial granting of permission to open fuel stations. So you heard his submission. And then the one that was a bit mind-boggling, 51, no less, custom checkpoints.
Exactly. You saw my reaction when...
And I asked him, and he said he counted.
When that figure was mentioned. 51 would suggest that there's virtually every custom officer in that place are lined up on the checkpoints. I do agree that with the coming together of Nigerian security forces to enforce the border drill, there may be an increase in the number of uniform personnel around the border areas and all that. But having 51 customs checkpoints probably might be an overstatement. I agree with his passion to get customs to serve Nigerians better and to make things better for customs. I think we share the same passion. We are on the same page on that. He is an honorable representative in that place. So he's an opinion leader. He's a voice we can rally around to get the people to cooperate with us and to even isn't
because he goes on. Apparently, he's implied that he goes on inspection. So he's like an eyewitness account.
Well, yeah, so he said.
Mm-hmm.
And
So he says.
the fact that he's an honorable clearly shows that he's a strong voice
That, yes.
in that place. And I will use this opportunity to call on him to apply his voice much more on the area of getting the youth and especially some of his people to cooperate with us so that we don't even need to have more than
okay.
2 checkpoints.
Oh, it's okay.
Because the idea of diverting smugglers, giving information to smugglers.
Yeah, because you think that 51 checkpoints is a bit of an exaggeration.
I think it's an overstatement
Okay.
to say that.
And I have another caller on the line, and I think I've lost that caller. I think I've lost that caller as well. Yeah, so we brought the partially closed aspect of the border back into our focus. How long more? How much longer is the border going to be the way it is? Because you know, we've had, you know, licensed customs agents and all interested parties from time to time since the operation began, saying that it is causing great, severe economic disruption to them.
Yeah, when we commenced the partial border closure on the 28th August 2019, we are not oblivious of the fact that it was capable of having some form of collateral damages on some people. And there's nowhere that you take a major decision as this that 1 or 2 things will not suffer. But I think we had our eyes on the bigger picture, and of course every well-meaning Nigerian joined us in that. And the whole idea is to protect national economy and security. And by the way, a flashback, why did we have to even embark on that partial border closure? It was because of the indifference of our neighbors. Also because of trans-border crimes and criminalities that crippled our agricultural sector, impacted negatively on our national security, and even the basic well-being of Nigerians were becoming increasingly questioned after so many failed attempts to get our neighbors to do the right thing, including even donating vehicles to them to help them do the job of escorting transit goods in line with the ECOWAS protocol on transit. After all these overtures failed, the present government said, look, enough is enough. Okay. How long can we keep playing Big Brother role?
Okay. Let me come back to the problem, because in the meantime, Reverend Dominic from Alimosho in Lagos here has been on the line. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning, Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Custom PRO.
Mr. Atta, yes.
Mr. Atta.
Good morning, Reverend.
Let me give Mr. Atta the picture of what Honorable is saying.
Okay.
Actually, Honorable may not have been established or specifically what you're saying. What he means is this: there's a multiple checking point, but not only by customs. You leave customs, you will see immigration. There's no color. I cannot know what is their name. And that color on the road before you see police, before you see another police. So as you are leaving customs, you are meeting immigration, you are seeing police officer. And many people call them all customs. That's the issue here. But what we must understand is that we have a nation that has a law. That law shouldn't be multiplied by all the agencies. Who is on the road? I don't care if they have 1,000 checking points. But my worry is this: why do we have multiple checking points? And what they're checking, we're not checking it. You go into the market, I've said several times, you see foreign rice, you see foreign turkey, you see frozen chicken. All these things we have 50 or 20 or 30 checking points. We're not checking them. The issue is not about checking points. If achieve the purposes, 1 million is no problem. But at the same time, we have multiple checking points. What we are checking, we could not check it. I don't know if it's right English. We still find those things in the market. Mr. Piaro, what caused it? Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Let me quickly react to the Reverend. I think the Reverend, what Reverend has done is he has kind of repositioned the Honorable's initial comment. Because when he said 51 customs checkpoints, I alluded to the fact that there may be increase in the number of security agencies in different uniform as a result of the border drill. Beyond that, just as the Reverend has said, he's talked about different security agencies and all that. And as a customs spokesperson, I can only speak for customs as it were here right now. So 51 statements and 51 checkpoints, I said
it's a bit much.
It's not possible. It's not possible.
But then when you put it in the perspective that Reverend Dominic is
But
suggesting,
the truth of the
there might
matter,
be an increase in security checks.
Yes.
Across
maybe as a
the
result
uniform,
of the
whether
border drill and all
immigration,
that.
whether
But
customs,
the
whether...
bottom line is, we want people like the Honorable, this Reverend, traditional rulers. Of course, we thank the traditional rulers because increasingly they are really doing a lot of things now. And that's why some of the tensions that is associated with custom operatives and the border community dwellers are on the decrease. The most important thing is to talk to our subjects, talk to our people. Why do we need to have checkpoint here, checkpoint there? Because we have people who are telling them, as I said earlier, to dodge this place, divert here, pass through this village, and bust up there. So there is now the need to create another one there to intercept. Even when he succeeds and get into the city, you now hear about it, you go and storm the warehouse.
Okay.
So the less we have of such sabotages, the less you have of checks.
Yeah, I guess I can see that.
You get it.
Because for every workaround that the bad guys come up with, customs has to come up with a response to that. I guess it's the lot of security around the world. If documentaries from around the world are anything to go by, especially in the area of drug smuggling, which I think is where the most ingenious, so as not to use the word creative, ideas are used to conceal the bad wood. But let's go back to the question.
I was going to round up on the border.
On how
the border closure,
how much longer? Do you have a sense?
I've actually established why it was necessary that
Yes.
the thing commenced, and shortly after the commencement, diplomatic engagement set in. You remember the Ouagadougou ECOWAS meeting, the tripartite meeting, Nigeria, Benin, and Niger. So what the government is doing now is to analyze and assess all the outcomes of this diplomatic engagement. Once the government is convinced that the concerns that necessitated the partial border closure have been addressed, government will take appropriate decision. Okay,
thank you, Femi in Surulere, for holding on. Go right ahead now. I think as I was saying that, I was hearing that we dropped that call. We lost that call. That is, we didn't drop it ourselves intentionally. We lost that call. Femi was going to call in. I don't know if you can really see what you can do in the next few seconds or so to redial. But as you were saying, border closure, how much longer? A lot will depend on the analysis that is brought to bear on all these other protocols and continuing discussions and dialogues that are going on.
Yes.
Okay. Now, maybe Patapata, as you are on the way out, the whole matter about some importers complaining, customs license agents, that customs doesn't seem to be fair in the sense that they see that some people seem to have access across the border, but not all. So shouldn't a rule be for all concerned equally if you're all on the same group, such as all of you are Nigerians? Why is it? First of all, is there anything to the allegation that there are some Nigerians that are able to move back and forth across the border?
Now, when the partial land border commenced last year, it was total as far as land movement of goods, goods going out and coming in was concerned. But I think as it progressed, there was need for some countries, our neighbors, for certain products for their own major projects back in their own country. And the government of such countries approached our government. Look, the whole intention of border closure is not to cripple our neighbors. We are still brothers and sisters.
So there are some exceptions, but there's nothing, it's not under the table.
No. They approached our government, and government looking at it, they say, okay, why the diplomatic engagement goes on? Since you say this is crucial to a particular project in your own country. Of course, it was not in our intention to cripple you.
You make exceptions.
We can say, okay, this particular thing that you so dearly need, without it, your major project we halt, can go.
Okay.
And that was granted to, it's about 2 items or so, granted to just 3 companies or so like that.
Okay.
So but that has nothing to do with the border reopening. Border will be open at the appropriate time.
Okay, Mr. Ahmed, thank you very much for holding on. Mr. Ahmed in Kano. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
I want to appreciate the National PRO of Nigerian Customs Service and the Customs Inquiry for a well-done job.
Thank you.
Nigeria would not even appreciate the customs till they know the value of why the border has been closed. We in the northern part of Nigeria, we appreciate the Nigerian Customs Service because our peasant farmers now have made a lot of money due to the border closure. And the security has been improved. If you visit most part of southern Kano, like Kura, Bebeji, you will see how rice farmers and rice millers that come on board. Before the border closure, you can even count how many rice factories are in Kano. But now, we have more than 30 rice mills in Kano. Then we have small rice millers also in Kura and some part of Kiru, Bebeji, and even within the Kano metropolitan. We really appreciate them for a well-done job. And I pray to God to guide them and protect them and help our great country, Nigeria. Once again, a big thanks to the Nigerian Customs Service, and God protect each and every one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. That must be warming to the heart.
That's heartwarming. I see Nigerians are good people. Once they see the results of what you are doing, you explain it to them, and once they see it, they appreciate you, they support you. Yes, I do know that it was a tough decision, but driven by integrity, Nigerian Customs Service is not afraid to embark on tough decisions and actions.
And you said this to me more than once, because Mr. Ahmed was also talking about rice. You said it the last time you were here. That was I think that was pre-COVID-19 altogether. Yeah. And you brought up the point about rice when we brought it up. You've repeated it here today that people don't seem to realize that processes and consequently quality of rice is going up. And therefore, you said that you were wondering if people were not mistaking high-quality, locally produced rice for foreign rice.
Yes, apart from...
Have you actually made any tests to see that this is foreign and this is high-quality, locally processed rice, and this is foreign, and it's very hard to tell the difference?
Yeah, you see, I said that because if you go to the market, most of those who will go to the market and see rice poured on a big tray for sale, you know, some of these rice that they measure in noodles and all that, once they see a very clean rice on a tray, the tendency is to think that, oh, it is foreign rice. Because in those days, if you just sight Nigerian rice from a distance and sight foreign rice on a plate from a distance, you just say, this is Nigerian, because maybe it's dusty, maybe it's filled with other. Yeah. But because of improved ability, capacity to really mill our rice, seeing them from a distance, you're not likely to tell the difference. So there's every tendency for you to see and say, this looks like this is foreign. But the difference is still there, because this one is more nutritious. This one is free of any chemical. It has not stayed so many, because most of the ones that used to come from outside are the ones that are about to be expired. They just export them to us.
Right.
They've stayed long in the silos. The fresh ones from their milling factories are for their own home consumption. The one that will soon expire, they shift it to us. Who says we are not entitled to eat fresher, more nourishing rice? We are entitled to that, and that's what we're getting, courtesy of strict enforcement.
Okay, then. Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Atta, because spending time with us this morning. It's a great job you're doing, and as Ahmed was saying from Kano, he just wishes you all the best. And I guess that's also our sentiment here. And thank you very much, as you said when you started off at the program.
Well, thank you very much. If you just give me 2 seconds, I want to sign up by saying that as a service, we are determined to serve Nigerians better. We call on our stakeholders to cooperate with us, especially importers, especially those who have money. Go out and buy things that are worth millions and sometimes even billions of dollars. And when they come into Nigeria, they are reluctant to pay customs duty. You pump this money outside and buy this thing, highly expensive. And when you come to Nigeria to pay your own duty, the money that the Nigerian government need to build roads, build hospitals, schools, and all that, you are reluctant to do. Each time you pay customs duty and taxes, you are providing resources for government to give out those things that Nigerians need.
You know,
you are also helping your poor neighbor who does not have money to go out and buy those things. But when he is sick or his child is sick, he can take that child to a nearby hospital and get quality drugs and meet a qualified doctor. Government can only provide this when we are willing to pay taxes, to pay our taxes,
be responsible citizens and pay our dues.
Yes.
You know, customs dues, taxes, and all that.
So I sign up by saying, don't smuggle, don't patronize smugglers.
Oh, okay, but you've also brought something else up to me because it just reminded me that as you were speaking about those people and advising them, there no doubt are exemplary Nigerian importers.
Of course,
that customs is proud of.
I told you about those who are even enjoying fast track.
Yeah, okay.
How do you enjoy fast track? It's because you have been profiled to be a compliant person over the years.
Okay.
And when your cargo arrives, it is taken automatically to your premises.
Because there's a history, and you know them.
We know them. Why is it that our revenue profile is rising? It's because we're having increasing number of stakeholders who are now compliant. Okay. We commend these compliant traders, and we encourage those who are not compliant to join them.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe Atta, Customs PRO, for spending part of your morning with us. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, then, so we'll take a break. Please stay with us, and we'll come back and we'll look at this whole question of the CNN report, government responding to that report. Government has said that they are quite satisfied with the action of the men in uniform, and CNN back again commenting on Nigeria's response. All of that when we come back. Okay, welcome back. And as I said, let's look at yesterday. In fact, on the program, we had to hand over to Abuja yesterday, as you recall, because Alhaji Lai Mohammed, Minister of Information, was about to have a press, address the press. And the address centered around a CNN documentary, as they used the word, you know, purporting to show that the Nigerian authorities actually shot at and killed many Nigerians. Well, you heard the minister's response, and then it is also, maybe people know at home that CBN has also commented on that story. First of all, the Nigerian government says CNN didn't provide any proof whatsoever for the assertions that it was making. Now, CNN is saying that the Minister of Information, the government spokesman, did not provide any proof at all for his own rebuttal of their story, and they said that they stood by their story. Now, many Nigerians noted that there wasn't any CNN work in terms of having boots on the ground, so to speak. But they were saying in videos obtained, in videos forensically stamped and all of that kind of a thing. First of all, I didn't even introduce you. Did I? Because my head is so full. Uzonna, of course, you're well known. Uzonna Anoye is executive editor in TVC News. Thank you very much for,
my pleasure.
We're chatting you away from your desk. Give me your impressions of all that whole area there.
Frankly, I think that what is key here is information management, and also understanding that times has changed. A lot of things that happened. It's not the way information is gathered before that we are going through now, and it's not the way you respond to everything that comes on the table before that suits today. A lot of people believe that the response by the federal government, first of all, wouldn't have taken place. It wasn't really, really necessary because CNN is an international news network. For it to have come up with whatever it says, it's forensically, yes, a lot of people argue whether there was any input or forensic evidence in that package or documentary as presented by CNN. But as far as the organization is concerned, they have put together bits and pieces of information, bits and pieces of video that are already in public domain, and then drew a line across all of them to come to a certain conclusion, which government finds unpleasant. As far as CNN is concerned, those are verifiable because there are tools available to the public these days to verify any video to know when and where it was taken. So with that, you can authenticate or you can verify the authenticity of every information material you have in the public space. So CNN says it has done that, and it has come to a certain conclusion that the soldiers did not just shoot in the air, but shot at protesters. I think that
it's interesting the way you say it, that the soldiers didn't just shoot in the air, allegedly, but also shot at protesters, according to CNN's findings. I don't know why they weren't as thorough as to also note that there was a report by a BBC reporter out there as well, saying that she observed, her name, it's unfortunate that that is the case, her name escapes me, that I would have liked to give her name. She was an eyewitness, and she said she observed soldiers shooting into the air before she left.
Yeah, exactly. Our own reporter was there too.
Yes.
At that material time when the shooting began, and the first report we got was that soldiers were shooting in the air. That wouldn't be a conclusion because the shooting didn't last for just 30 seconds or 1 minute.
No.
It lasted for a while.
Yes.
And so it is possible that after shooting in the air, they may have shot at anybody.
Indeed.
But you know, all of these are things that are, bits and pieces of information that are littered everywhere that CNN says it has put together. One would have expected the response to come from the army, because the person on trial or the institution on trial here is not necessarily the federal government. Yes, the army is part of the federal government, but not necessarily the federal government, but the army. Now, the army has come up earlier to say something, and then one would have...
Which Lai Mohammed was quoting.
Yes, one would have expected the exchange to continue between whoever that is interested in verifying or questioning what the army had said earlier and the army themselves. We have a very crucial situation in our hands in Nigeria at the moment, where there is a wide gap between the government and Nigeria. The trust deficit is so huge that whatever government says is questioned by the people. The people do not trust the government to ever say the truth. That is why, even when the protest began, the Inspector General of Police announced the dissolution of SARS. And the protesters themselves said, we don't believe it.
Yeah.
Because of that trust deficit. So at each point in time, whatever step government takes is questioned by the people. That then means that the government on their own part should be more careful and very, very selective in what they say. A lot of people believe that this is the right time to stop talking.
Okay, exactly.
And act more. Let more actions be seen.
Let's look a bit at, because you touched on it briefly, why, you can only guess, you're not being part of federal government, why it was thought to be necessary to react to CNN's reports?
I have huge respect for the Minister of Information, very huge respect that had been on for over a decade. But I think that sometimes they apply analog solutions to digital problems. And so when such happens, you likely will not get the exact result or the solution you are looking for. We have been used to government responding and reacting to almost everything, whether it is necessary or not. Sometimes the reaction and response that government should give to some of these things are not just words, but action. For instance, a lot have been said about ending police brutality. And the best we have seen is that policemen who are suspected to have violated human rights are relieved of their duties. That doesn't address the real issue. Prosecute them and get them jailed if they are found guilty. Prosecute them openly. That's the only way to convince the Nigerian people that government is actually serious about what it's saying it's doing. Let us see an enforcement or an implementation of a review of police salary and welfare packages. If government continues doing all of this, no matter what anybody says by the sides or by the corners, will amount not to too much, because people will believe that government is answering the questions that are being raised that are very crucial and critical. But coming to engage anybody, for instance, CNN, what other job does CNN have than to push out information? And you want to engage them in their comfort zone, and pushing out information. Don't you think that it may not really
And
help?
there were people who were wondering what exactly was meant that CNN should be sanctioned. How? Even though
The minister,
was allowing that
Yes.
CBN probably has its own internal mechanisms, but that CBN should be sanctioned.
Yeah, the CNN cannot be sanctioned by Nigerian Broadcasting, National Broadcasting Commission in Nigeria. It doesn't have that
CNN or
jurisdiction.
CBN. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
it doesn't have that jurisdiction. If any sanction would happen, it will be the affairs of CNN if they find out that a certain reporter or a particular reporter misinformed and misled the organization. But their response yesterday when we reached out to them to verify, to get their reaction to federal government's position, their response was that they stand by their story.
They stand by the story.
And by saying that they stand by their story, perhaps suggests that if there is further doubt, we'll release more. And if you want to fight somebody, wisdom doesn't demand that you fight the person in the person's territory or comfort zone. So when it comes to information, I do not think that it would be wise to engage CNN headlong.
Okay.
Yes, government has made its position clear, and then move on with actions instead of words.
Well, thank you very much, because I wanted to get the perspective of a working professional, and you've done that admirably. Thank you very much, Uzonna.
My pleasure.
Executive Editor at TVC News. Well, you spoke about, I don't have the time, but you spoke about metadata, which is, something, it's a tool. You can have a lot of information that is recorded along with a picture or video that you're examining, if you know how to look. And clearly, CNN does know how to look, and as you said, they took a lot of these videos and then plotted a line through them and then arrived at some conclusions. But the minister was asking for proof, and the federal government through Alhaji Lai Mohammed said that they are satisfied with the way that their men in uniform behaved. Thank you very much, Uzonna.
My pleasure.
So we'll take a break now, and we'll continue on this subject and also take your calls with another guest. Come back, and as I said, we'll continue this discussion, but with Mr. Curtis Adigba. He's a lawyer, he's a public commentator. Thanks, as always, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Curtis. Now, we're looking at the, post-COVID-19 and picking up the pieces and all of that as the smoke settles. And then we had this instance where the federal government, through the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, reacted to a CNN documentary and quietly, taking a very, very dim view of it. The question, you might have seen and by the way, as you know, CNN has responded to that.
They stand by their report.
And they say that they stand by the report. Alhaji Mohammed, speaking for government, says there's absolutely no reason for him to believe the soldier, the general, who is testifying before the panel, who said that they shot into the air. Yeah, they might have shot into the air, but apparently, they said after some time they lowered their sights and shot into the people. But all of that, there are those who are saying that by Alhaji Lai Mohammed saying that they are happy, pleased with the conduct, professional behavior of their men in uniform, and the results haven't come out yet. I mean, the findings haven't come out from the tribunals, panels. Does that strike you as a bit wonky, as we say locally?
Okay, I think first and foremost, this is a very sobering time for all Nigerians. Because as parents, we must be worried if what people alleged happened. Unfortunately or fortunately for us, we still haven't seen the entire picture of what people said. Now, Lai Mohammed, of course, speaks for the government, and his major responsibility is to project the government in very positive light and for the world to see it that way. But however, I think it's also important that we lay the facts bare for people to understand. CNN is a big international organization, and that is why this has traction. Because if you look at the reporting by CNN, there's nothing there that is different from what Premium Times did. All that CNN did was just to lift the Premium Times reporting and then added some few flesh. They introduced two elements. They called something time stamping. And then they talk about another one, geolocation.
Yes.
In other words, they got the devices that were used in recording some of the videos and then looked at the digital footprint and located that those devices were around the Lekki corridor at the time.
They also did something they call metadata locating.
Yes. Now, and from that they concluded that one person whose name is Victor Ibanga died. Why? Because they said someone picked his phone and called his brother, Sunday Ibanga, to inform him that his brother had been killed by soldiers. And then they showed a picture. Because I went through the reporting, and they showed the picture. And then they said there were dozens of those that were injured. I went to a hospital where they met a Dr. Ayo, who told them that injured people were brought to his hospital. One had his leg amputated, but no one died in their hospital. So if you look at what CNN has said and done, I don't even understand why Lai Mohammed or anybody should be angry. Because they basically haven't established a massacre. Because in that same reporting, they talked about a massacre. That eyewitnesses said there were massacres, but they also said they could not confirm some of these stories.
Okay.
So if I were Lai Mohammed, I would see this as an opportunity to engage with the CNN, with the facts that we have at our disposal, to show that what your reporters told you. Because look, CNN didn't have any reporter on site. Well, now we know there were people, CNN reporters like Nima Ebagi, Stephanie Busari, Gianluca Mezzofore. So these were the people, they said they went around and spoke to people. So it is left for the federal government. Because don't forget that we are operating from a background of disinformation. First and foremost, when it happened, I woke up that morning, I didn't even know anything happened because I went to bed early. But I saw a message from my daughter that said, Daddy, 77 people massacred in Lekki. What is their crime? Oh, just being Nigerians and put emoji with tears. So I had to call her and say, what happened? So the first thing we heard was that the Lagos State government said, we did not invite soldiers. We didn't even know how they got into the place. The soldiers themselves said, no, we didn't even go there at all. And then later they reversed themselves. They said, yes, we did invite soldiers, but we don't control how they operate. That's the Lagos State government. And then the soldiers said, we went there.
At the invitation.
At the invitation of the Lagos State government, we shot. But we shot into the air, and we used bullets that couldn't kill anybody. Again, if you look at this, these are
Let's come back to that
contradicting positions.
Indeed. And also the word, as you said, initially there was a lot of misinformation going on, even locally. Bogus reports were going out there. And then a lot of this has centered around the word massacre. I think the latest position of CNN right now is that there was one kill.
One case, and then there's a case of another Okon.
Yes. So this is totally different from, so you can't call one or two a massacre.
And even the Okon's case, according to CNN, his brother said he came into Lagos recently, got a job, he's 18 years old, and that he went to work on that day, joined the protest, and he has not been seen since then. So it's not conclusive that he was killed.
But CNN earlier had put out, the kind of stories that we were also seeing here, because that seemed to be the way CNN was working. It didn't have any boots on the ground.
No, they didn't.
And so they were really, really lifting, cell phone videos. Also, the Minister of Information sort of he put a sort of a judgment on the DJ Switch. I think he actually said, you know, after saying the necessaries, that she's not wanted, nobody's looking for her, but then he did speak about the lies, you know, of that lady, which, I don't know, the way you look at it, many people, some might have seen it as prejudging the issue, especially as we know that federal government is awaiting the reports of panels that are actually looking into what exactly happened.
You know what I would say? A Curtis Adigba can go out there and say, DJ Switch is a lying bitch or whatever. So sorry to use that. Curtis Adigba can go out and say, DJ Switch is a liar, right? But that shouldn't come from the Minister of Information. And that is because whatever he says is seen as the official position of the government.
Yeah.
Why the same government is the one saying we're investigating what happened. Now, what I would have said to CNN is, look, you spoke with Ibanga, the brother to the deceased Nigerian who was killed at Lekki. You got his device, the phone that was used, and you were able to timestamp it and found the location that indeed that happened. Why don't you lead us to these people? Because we're asking for them to come forward.
Okay, let's take Phillips.
You understand?
Yeah, Phillips calling in from Abuja. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Hello, Phillips.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good
morning, Mr. Yori.
Good morning, sir. Please carry on. Go on, please.
Yes, my view on the CNN report is no different from the outcry of all Nigerians across the globe. I think CNN is not more.
Your line is not very good. We just thought you should know, Phillips. I don't know why. The TV is not on. It sounds so muffled, a bit of an echo. But please carry on. We'll try our best. Just be aware.
Now.
No, it's still very, very muffled. It's loud and muffled, but not clear. But carry on. Let's see if we can just sort of concentrate, not our brows. And carry on, please. Let's see. Hello. I think we lost you.
I think what the federal government should be doing now is reaching out to CNN and say, look, we want to work with you. You said you have obtained some evidence that we need. Because right here, the government is still appealing. Even the governor of Lagos State, just this week, made another appeal. If you know of anyone who was killed by soldiers at Lekki, please come forward.
Exactly.
And the information we are hearing is that people are scared. Look, if you have killed my son or daughter, I will come there for you to kill me also.
Nobody.
So what
exactly.
What am I afraid of?
And that is another important point that CNN didn't address.
When I came under a lot of pressure from my daughter and some of our friends, you know, young people who see things differently, I appealed to some friends and we put some funds together. We said, look, we are prepared to offer you free legal services or pay for one if you don't trust us. If your daughter or your son or your loved one, anyone you know at all, was killed by soldiers in Lekki, don't be afraid. Come forward. We will stand in the gap for you.
And there have been no takers.
No, nobody has come.
This is the point.
So this is the point.
There have been no
And we
takers.
cannot continue to have this shadow and cloud over our country.
And that is the point Lai
we need to
Mohammed was
move forward.
making.
Yes.
This was the very point Lai Mohammed was making, that CNN, through its work, through what it does, was no matter how inadvertently, giving the wrong impression to the world.
I think his approach or reading of what CNN did is wrong. He should have seen it differently. He should have tried to partner with the CNN to use their network and then unravel.
Okay, let's
what
see.
he had.
Yeah, Phillips is back now. Good morning, Phillips.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Excellent. Thank you very much for calling back. You're clear now.
Yes. Yes, I just want to make my contributions in line with the global outcry, not just by the Nigerian government, but men of good conscience and goodwill all over the world.
Sure.
Everyone has seen the lies, the misinformation, and falsehood that the CNN is trying to justify and sell to the public. Remember that CNN had told us earlier that 38 people, were killed at the Lekki so-called massacre. And now they are not trying to rely on a video packaged together by some persons, and they want to describe that as an investigative report. I think what the Nigerian government failed to do yesterday was to demand for a comprehensive apology, a professional apology to Nigerians from the CNN, and to equally request that for the first time that they show remorse, for police officers and innocent Nigerians who were killed by the hoodlums and protesters during that event. Yes, Nigeria is a sovereign nation. We have continued to welcome all shades of opinion and character, to make comments as far as the activity affairs of government is concerned in our country. But I want to totally disagree with vested interests who have their own myopic agenda, the agenda to disintegrate this country, and people who can actually take money, to put anything, not minding how that thing affects the unity of our country.
Okay, thank you very much. Phillips, I beg your pardon, but thank you very much. We got you loud and clear, and you did indeed get the essence.
The funny thing here is that you cannot but notice the shifty position of some Nigerians. If you recall, just before the U.S. election, majority of Nigerians who supported President Trump said CNN was fake news. Don't even listen to them. There's nothing on CNN that is good.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, the same people now accepted the reporting from CNN, and they said it's gold standard for measuring transparency and everything. But the reality is that, look, here's an opportunity for the Nigerian government. Instead of confronting CNN in such an adverse positioning, by saying, look, give us what you have, and we are ready to work with you.
All right, then.
To show you that, look, what you are alleging didn't happen.
All right. Thank you very much, Curtis. Wanted to get your impression.
Thanks for having me.
And before then, the perspective of our executive, our editor, who's on honor here earlier on this whole matter of reportage. So that's our program today. Please join us next week, Monday, when is our next day, because we don't do the weekends. And as I always say, please, observe all the protocols of COVID-19, the Center for Disease Control, all those protocols. Please just keep them, because COVID is very much out there. So apart from that, have a great weekend. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.